Hello, everybody. It's me, Z-Man. So I actually had I tried to record this video earlier today, but internet acting bad. You know how the story. But hopefully, my mom actually came in and helped me, so I think I'll be able to make my videos better in general. Because now my internet's at full, and I'm ready to chat. For today's review, I am talking, of course, about the Jetsons. A few months earlier, I did Flintstones. And Flintstones can't really say I loved it, but I did, in fact, review it. But I still, in fact, reviewed it. Ooh, this is weird, Clint. Hold on. Yeah, no, Weird Glint's still there. So sorry, chat, you kind of have to deal with the Weird Glint in this video. I hope that's not distracting. Anyway, but yeah, Jetsons Season 1. Now, since Jetsons isn't the most popular show ever, I actually kind of feel a need to explain the premise of this one. Jetsons, kind of like how Flintstones was cavemen, but with Jetsons, it's space. So in this space-oriented show, well, I mean, the theme song pretty much explains all the characters and their roles. We have George Jetson, the dad, his boy Elroy, daughter Judy, and Jane, his wife. Okay, the Flintstones intro was solid, but the Jetsons intro, on another level. I love it. There's also a few more characters that the intro neglects to mention that I'll quickly mention here, as I do think they're important enough to bring up. We have robot maid Rosie, his dog Astro, Spacely, his boss. Which I know feels weird to bring up his boss, but Mr. Spacely actually plays a very big role in the show. Like, he's more important than most of the family members. He's like the Barney to George's Fred. Or I guess in Spacely is George's boss, it's really more Spacely is the Fred, but Barney's like the main character now. Whatever, you know what I mean. Anyway, 24 episodes. Let's dig in. 1. Rosie the Robot. Jane gets a one-day free robot maid on the same night George's boss, Mr. Spacely, comes for dinner. Okay, so episode 1 of Flintstones, and in general, if you forgot my review of Flintstones or just didn't bother watching it, which I cannot blame you, you would know that I found Flintstones' first episode to be just kind of there. But how is Jetsons? It's a 4 out of 5. Yeah, I like this episode. I think it's good. I liked how the two plots came together. It does a solid job establishing everyone, I'd say. I don't even have a ton else to bring up with the episode, honestly, other than it's solid and I like it. Rosie is probably my favorite character of the whole show. Spoiler alert, already on episode 1, but yeah, she's really good. I like how sassy she is, but still clearly cares for the family, which this episode does a good job demonstrating. Good episode. It's funny. I'll tell you some of the favorite moments just to help better demonstrate why I love this one. We have Jane's exercise, which is her just doing this. Yeah, that's so much work. We also have Judy's swimsuit, which let's be all grateful she wasn't actually putting that on, because otherwise that'd be We also have Jane saying telling Elroy not to pick fights with the Russian kids, which is yeah. Just a lot, and honestly, pretty much anything with Rosie I liked in this episode. This was a good episode. Good first episode for an impression on the show. Episode 2, A Date with Jet Screamer. George inadvertently gets Judy a date with her idol. This episode is a 3 out of 5. Hopefully with that, the weird tint is gone. This was a watchable episode. Uh, honestly, this is the type of episode that I can just sit through and be like, yeah, dude, this is fine. Not really loving it, but it's watchable. I honestly don't have a lot to say about it, other than it was fine. We get to see a bit more of Judy, her and George's relationship. And yeah, it's difficult to say because this episode isn't really bad. It's like a perfect 6 out of 10 experience, if you know what I mean. Fine, watchable, but not really anything that'll really leave a massive lasting impression. 3. Jetsons Night Out. George and Spacely lighted their wives to go to a football game. Alrighty, this one's a 4. I liked this one. Seeing George and Spacely try to lie to their wives like that was definitely quite sneaky. It definitely felt like a Flintstones story. Flintstones had a lot of episodes, at least from season 1, because it's the only season I've actually watched, where it's just Fred and Barney have problems with Wilma and Betty. Whoa. This was kind of like that, but I actually liked this more than most Flintstones season 1 episodes. It was fun. I think George and Spacely have a really good dynamic. I really enjoy it. Seeing them, episodes pretty much just seeing them, pretty much just having a team up, and it's real good. I think I like them as a duo. Well, I do think Spacely gets a bit too much screen time throughout the season. I think he was good here. My one complaint with the episode is that I do think the section with the robot football game wasn't that interesting, but that's really my only complaint. Good episode. The rest of the episode is good enough to where that whole section with the robot game, I'm okay with it. I can sit with it. 4. The space car. George and Jane accidentally get involved with the robbers. This one is a 3 out of 5. Watchable. I don't know, man. I don't know. This is one of those I kind of just sat through and was thinking, yeah, okay, I'm kind of just waiting for this one to end. Not bad, but also not really anything to write home about, at least in my opinion. Again, just there. 5. The Coming of Astro. Elroy finds a dog named Astro and the family wants him, but George doesn't and gets a robot dog instead. Okay, so if episode 1 established Rosie, who we have not seen since that first episode, for some reason, even though she's clearly the best character, now we have Astro, and Astro's solid. I kind of like that he's so obviously just a prototype of Scooby-Doo, like to the point where it's not even funny. I mean, to be fair, Jetsons came out earlier in the decade, like, I want to say roughly like 7-ish years before Astro. So that's definitely in her. So I guess maybe when they made Scooby-Doo, they just used Astro as inspiration. Because they're both dogs. Anyway, good episode. It's not that funny or does a lot amazing. It's just an all-around solid entry, and that's all I really have to say. Yeah, that's a problem. The good episodes, which have so far all been the odd episodes, I've realized, weird pattern. The good episodes are good, but don't really do, other than debatably the first episode, they don't really do a ton to really stand out as, this was amazing. More so just solid episodes. So. Episode 6, Good Little Scouts. George has to lead Elroy's camp troop through the moon. This one's a 3 out of 5. Another meh one. And I have the occasional good moment, like George calming down all the wives. Women can get so emotional about their sons. Am I right, men? But then, of course, Mr. Spacely's kid ends up leaving the troop and ends up trying to do his own thing. And it's like, man, George can't even handle a simple task. Men, am I right, women? Overall, though, me trying to be funny like that is all I have to say about episodes like this one. Despite being 24 episodes, Jetsons episodes don't really have a lot of substance to them, so it makes it a little difficult to try to go in depth about them beyond this was good or this was meh. So if I sound really repetitive or like I'm not giving enough depth, well, first of all, you can just comment and tell me your thoughts on the episodes. But other than that, yeah, I don't know, man. It's a meh episode. I don't know what else to say, really. It's kind of just there. Episode 7, The Flying Suit. George accidentally gets the wrong suit, and this suit allows him to fly. Bad episode, 1 out of 5. Honestly, this one was kind of just painfully boring. Again, comparing it to the Flintstones again, because it's the only other 60 show I've reviewed so far. But I don't know, man. I was just sitting there the whole time, just bored out of my mind, waiting for this thing to end. This show had one thing Jetsons does a lot of is that a lot of episodes are misunderstanding plot lines. And this is one of them, and I don't know. Again, they were fine for a bit, but kind of like Flintstones, I feel like after a while, Jetsons starts really reusing the same few plot lines when they could totally focus on more interesting things instead. But I know they decided just to reuse the same anime. They decided to reuse just the same storylines. It just gets so meh. See, I'm even yawning. I think that proves how boring this is. But yeah, bad episode. Barely any funny moments. Honestly, you can just kind of skip it. Not even bad in an interesting way. Just bad in a boring way. 8. Rosie's boyfriend. Rosie's in love with a new mechanical robot named Mac. Solid episode. 4 out of 5. This is the only other episode in the season to focus on Rosie. Yeah, these are the only 2 episodes where Rosie even shows up. I guess there's a little outro sequence in every episode where Rosie's in there, but like, man, that outro sequence makes Rosie act like Rosie's a main character. And the cover for it on Disney Plus, which is where I watched the season, it has her on it. But in terms of only season 1, she's only in like 2 of these episodes. Despite her objectively being the best character. What the heck, right? Season 1 writers? Man. Whatever. At least both of her episodes are good. I do wish they focused more on Rosie and less on Mac, whose whole thing is just that he's just kind of a mess up. I don't have a lot else to say about him, honestly. I don't have much else to say about him or this episode, but I guess I do like Rosie's little story where first when she sees Judy in love, she kind of rejects it and says, "Oh, that's dumb." But then when she falls in love with Mac, she kind of starts being the same way. So that's still a solid little message, I guess. Good episode. 9. Elroy's TV show. A director sees Elroy and Astro and wants to make a show about them, but George tries to help it. And by that I mean he ends up butting in, and the director purposefully tries to get him out of the show. This is a good episode. Honestly, the best one so far. Probably my favorite episode so far, honestly. Yeah, this one's solid. Not even just solid. Why do you say that? No, this might debatably even be the first really good episode. That's the whole premise. It's hard to describe because it doesn't sound that different from the rest. But when watching it, I felt like it was getting funnier. It felt like the funniest one so far. A lot of good jokes. I like how Elroy was just kind of okay with being on TV, but then Judy and especially George try so hard to like latch onto his success. It was funny, and I liked how Spacely's wife kind of forced Spacely to throw his kid in, and George was like, "Oh yeah, sure, you can be in it," only for George to make Spacely kind of act like how he was during the show. Oh yeah, sorry, I was trying to remember a scene I was thinking of, and now I remember. I like how throughout the whole show, or at least this whole season, Spacely always threatens to fire George or demote him. But in this episode, when George quits, Spacely gets out cowardly, like, "Oh, come on, George, you gotta stay." That was really funny to me. Some people proves that Spacely's all bite but no bark. All bark but no bite. Oh my god. See, I'm starting to realize why I have only 14 subscribers. Because I make mess ups like that, bro. Just say the quote right, bro. 10. Uniblab. A robot named Uniblab takes the supervisor job instead of George. 4 out of 5. Nothing to say. Solid episode. I liked Uniblab. He was a solid enough character. I liked by the end how when Uniblab was all messed up, Uniblab acted drunk. Or at least that's just how I thought he acted like. It was pretty wild. I don't have a lot to say. It's a solid episode. I like that. Okay, these next 3 episodes I'm going to be very quick on because I kind of have the same opinion in all of them. 11, a visit from Grandpa. Grandpa Jetson visits the family. And before anyone thinks, oh, Elroy and Judy's grandpa, no, this is George's grandpa. We don't even see George's parents, or I'm pretty sure we don't even see Jane's parents in the show. So no, George's grandpa, who's like 100 and like something, is still alive. That's crazy to think about. And this show takes place in the 2060s. So that must mean if he was alive, if he's over 100 years old, he was born well beyond that, like the 1950s or like 40s. That's crazy. I mean, heck, it's currently 2025, and I'm currently 17. So for an example, if the show took place in 2065, which I'm not sure it does, but I'll just go with it, I'd be like 57. The whole decade, I'd be in like my late 50s, early 60s. I wonder if these videos will even still be on YouTube, let alone how I'm even doing. Because I probably won't be making YouTube videos for that long. Anyway, the episode, I'm only saying all this because the episode itself is 3. This episode kind of just has one joke to it, and that's that Grandpa Jetson is very eccentric and very crazy, and that's kind of just the whole thing, the whole shtick they use for the runtime. It's not bad. It has some good jokes, but again, it kind of just turns into another misunderstanding plotline, which even by this episode, I was kind of getting a little tired that they kept doing this. 12. Astro's top secret. Astro accidentally saves Spacely's company against Cogswell. Oh yeah, dude. In the Flying Suit episode, you didn't even mention. There's this character called Cogswell, and his whole shtick is that him and Spacely are rivals. I don't typically enjoy those episodes. He was introduced in the Flying Suit, and you already know how much I don't like that episode. In this episode, he returns, and it's 3 out of 5. It's another misunderstanding plot, and it's just sort of there. As much as I like Astro enough, I think he's a solid enough character. His whole shtick where he cries after George says something like slightly mean to him, I don't really like that running bit. That's not even a problem with the episode. It's just a problem I have with Astro's character, and I guess how they write him as a whole. I don't know. It's a solid episode. Not even solid. It's a mid-episode, honestly. 3 out of 5. Not that great, honestly. This whole Spacely and Cogswell thing is kind of what I mean when I say the writers reuse plots when they could instead try to be more creative. Like, I know you gotta write 24 episodes, which I know is a lot, especially since these are 26-minute episodes. But come on, writers, you could do better than just reusing the same ideas. Just because you have to use reused animation doesn't mean you have to do the same thing for episode plots. Again, Flintstones have that same problem, and while I think Jetsons is doing a better job at having it not be as annoying, or at least being more creative with it, it's still a problem I've noticed with these Hanna-Barbera shows. 13. Las Venus. George goes to Las Venus with Jane and has to decide between his work and his wife. 3 out of 5. Another, I almost debated giving this one a 2, honestly. This one was just sort of there. There were a few good bits, like the cop not knowing what's going on when George keeps going between their restaurants, or I guess more so the dance clubs. And there's also a brief little thing about how George and Jane met, and that's good. And shows like these that are about families, seeing how the husband and wife met is always a good thing in my opinion. Always a thing that should be done. But this one was honestly mostly boring. I kind of wish again Spacely didn't have to force his way into like every episode. 14, test pilot. George thinks he's going to pass away soon, so he willingly becomes a test subject for a life jacket. I really like this episode. It's a 4 out of 5. While Roy's TV show, I think, was close to pretty good, I think this is confidently the first really good Jetsons episode. I'm calling it here, folks. If you want the first really good Jetsons episode, or at least probably one of the ones I recommend watching from the season the most, it's this one. Not only is this one definitely one of the funnier season 1 episodes, there's a lot of funny jokes, a lot of good bits in this one, but I also like the emotional core. George genuinely believes he's going to pass away soon, so he willingly does this very death-defying thing for this, to test out this new life jacket that can literally is indestructible, and the tests pretty much just prove that. But George does it for his family because he cares about his family, and that's really sweet. It's probably the most out of all the episodes up to this point, probably the one that got me to care the most about these characters, and probably cared the most about George as a character. Good. So you know what? Really good episode. I actually genuinely, well, I do recommend watching all the episodes I gave a 4, and honestly, just watching through the season in general, because you obviously shouldn't take my word on the quality of these episodes. This is definitely the one I have to recommend the most. It's a really good episode. 15, Elroy's pal. Elroy competes in a contest to meet his TV hero, Nimbus, but he can't go out because he's got a cold. And by he, I meant Nimbus. Don't know why in the Google Doc I wrote it as he. Should have just put Nimbus again. Sadly, after that really good episode, we go back to another just kind of middle of the road one. 3 out of 5. Don't have much to say. Just kind of there. I kind of liked George being secretly jealous of this Nimbus guy just because he wants Elroy to look up to him, but that's really it. That's all I really got to say. That's the only part that was somewhat interesting. Mostly just kind of a there episode. And also, didn't A Date with Jet Screamer already do this whole kids winning a contest plot line? At this point, I should try not to bring up when they reuse plot lines, because I think you guys already know the point. It's probably the fact I do try to review episodes individually that makes me kind of repeat myself sometimes, especially when a season has like a similar problem for a lot of its episodes. And I knew Jet Screamer was already like a 3 out of 5, so I didn't even really like that one either. And I like this one like even less, which is not a good sign. 16, a millionaire Astro. A rich man gets a guy named Vasquez to get Astro to him. Honestly, this one's a 3 out of 5, but I really wanted to like this episode more than I did. I think the final few minutes with Astro actually does have to live with this rich guy was genuinely good. I genuinely cared for Astro. Maybe wish more of the episode was dedicated to that and less to stuff like the chase, which started good but kind of just got meh towards the end. Also, one thing I do like, in the episode The Coming of Astro, which was the one that established Astro, the Elroy talked about how he met Astro, and I am very, very confident in this episode when Elroy describes how he met Astro. It's actually, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same backstory, which you know what you're saying. Obviously, it's the same backstory. But no, these old shows like Flintstones and Jetsons, they are very episodic. I mean, George, in this series as an example, George always gets to become vice president, but by next episode, he's always back to being demoted. So a lot of stuff doesn't stick on the show. So I was genuinely very impressed and pleased to figure out that they actually willingly kept continuity here. I really liked that. Doesn't sound big, but given the context that the show was made in like 1962, I really enjoyed that. I know it's small, but sometimes I enjoy these small things in my TV animated adult comedies. Don't know why it was silent. I don't know what point I was trying to make there. 17, The Little Man. Spacely forces George to go through a shrinking machine, which makes him small. Don't have a lot to say. George is a small throughout the whole episode, but I think it's good enough to work. 4 out of 5. good episode. I don't really have a lot to say. George being small doesn't sound like the type of plotline that's that interesting, but I liked it. I think it was good enough to honestly kind of carry. And even though it's another one about Spacely and Cogswell's rivalry, I think this episode actually used it in a good way, which is why I'm okay enough with European idea as long as you do something good or creative with it. That's just kind of my belief of it. Even if it's like a stock standard TV storyline, if you're actually funny or do an interesting direction with it, I'm more willing to let it slide. And this episode did that. Good episode. 18, Jane's driving lesson. Jane goes to a driving lesson and does horribly. Doesn't sound special, but this is another 4 out of 5. This is another really good episode. May even be the funniest episode of the whole show, honestly. I mean, to be fair, the whole thing is kind of just a whole episode dedicated to women's driver jokes, saying how horrible women are at driving, which, yeah, you can kind of tell this is the 60s. Yeah, that's definitely something. Personally, though, I mean, I'm the type of guy that can casually watch like Family Guy or South Park and not feel like too upset or like because I'm not really like a snowflake. At least I don't hope I'm not a snowflake, so I can handle those things fine. If you, on the other hand, can't, then I can understand why this episode may not be for you. But I personally thought this episode was really funny. It's just, it's kind of wrong, but kind of right. I really like this episode. I'd probably say Test Pilot is probably the superior episode because that one had more of an emotional core to it, but I can't deny just how funny this episode was, which makes it an easy second place. So. Episode 19, a GI Jetson. George and Henry. Henry is George's friend. Don't worry about him. He does show up decently enough, but not to the point where I think I really need to explain him. Have to go to the military for 2 weeks. Although I don't like Spacely always being forced into episodes, I will admit George being like, I have to be in the military for 2 weeks. At least I don't have to deal with Spacely. And then is revealed Spacely's kind of his commanding officer. I liked that. That's the one time where I actually kind of liked Spacely being forced into the episode. The first half is a fine enough series of military jokes without much of a plot. Favorite part from this whole episode though has to be the dumb guy that ended up failing the smart test, and because of that he became an officer. That was pretty good. The episode starts getting weaker though in the second half when Uniblab shows up, and it kind of just becomes a reskin of the Uniblab episode. Not a sequel, just a rip off, like kind of just doing the exact same bits, the exact same jokes. And I liked the Uniblab episode, but I don't really think we needed these same jokes repeated in a second episode where it only takes up like half the runtime. Kind of made it feel like the writers didn't really know where to take this episode and decided just to throw in a character they liked from an earlier episode. So yeah, it's kind of just a 3, kind of just there. Miss Solar System. Jane gets upset that George isn't paying attention to her, so she joins the Miss Solar System contest, unaware that George is the judge. 3 out of 5. Marriage crisis episode. I don't generally love these kinds of episodes. Even in literally my all-time favorite show, The Simpsons, even then I don't really like these marriage crisis episodes. Not that they can't be done well, but just if the episode's just kind of the husband and the wife kind of just yelling at each other, I start to lose interest. It feels like such an obvious direction to take a family sitcom. And sadly, this one's a 3 out of 5 because it doesn't really do much to really deviate from that. Kind of just mid. 21, Private Property. Spacely and Cogswell fight over who owns property. Spacely versus Cogswell episode, a 3 out of 5. I really don't understand why they thought this idea was so good to use in several different episodes. Spacely and Cogswell's rivalry isn't that funny. Just kind of there. And it's another misunderstanding episode too. Oh, wow. 22, Dude Planet. Jane takes a vacation and George has to deal with the housework. 1 out of 5. Maybe it's because by this point I was seriously getting tired of watching through the show. I mean, this video, I mean, it took me the longest to watch through this show, but I think that's because I had to deal with like burnout of like having to constantly deal with these videos while working on them constantly. Not to mention, I did a lot of family events for the summer, so I feel like I could be a bit excused, but yeah, still, it took me a while to get through the show, so maybe at this point I was just so tired. But I don't really, but given my ratings for the last two episodes, I don't really think so. I think this was just a bad episode. Really, really boring. Just Jane going away, but oh, she misses her family. Reminds me of a Simpsons episode that I also kind of thought was just mid, but this one was an even worse version of that. Also, weird thing, the family owns a cat in this episode. Yeah, I don't know why they do, but yeah, in this episode they just own a cat. The Jetson family own a cat, and we never see this guy ever. And now, come to think of it, Astro wasn't in this episode. So, is this episode take place in a weird alternate universe where they owned a cat and not Astro? Weird. 23. TV or not TV? George and Astro think robbers are after them, so they leave home. Another misunderstanding episode, but you know what? It's like a 3 out of 5. It's fine. I like it more than most of the misunderstanding episodes. It's fine enough. Turns out the robbers were just TV network. We're just acting for a TV show. It's fine. It's a fine enough episode. Dude, there's a car beeping outside my house. Oh man, I'm not sure if you guys can hear it. If so, then please try to ignore it. As I talk about the final episode, Elroy's mob. George and Jane think Elroy got bad grades, so he runs away with Astro. Fun fact, the final episode of season 1, is where we finally get introduced to Elroy's school life. We see him go to school in a couple of episodes, and we see him walking away from school in one episode, but no. Despite all these episodes about misunderstandings and Spacely and Cogswell's rivalry, we never get introduced to Elroy's school until this final episode, which is part of my problem that Mr. Spacely was the... Yes, I know he's voiced by probably the greatest voice actor of all time, Mel Blanc, who did most of the Looney Tunes. So I know how legendary Spacely's voice actor was, but that doesn't mean you had to force him into so many episodes. Just focus on the family, focus on Elroy's school life. And even then, we only really focused on that for the first third. I don't know I'm sounding mad because this is a good episode. It's a 4 out of 5. It's a good season finale. This is kind of like the last episode, except to replace George with Elroy. Instead of being a misunderstanding plot, it's actually a family relationship plot. So in many ways, this is kind of just literally... The last 2 episodes are kind of similar, except the second one is actually good, just a better version of it, like the good version. And with over 30 minutes of me just rambling about an old 60s cartoon most people don't care about or have even seen, I am done with Jetsons Season 1. Before I tell you my thoughts, I'll do what I usually do in these videos and go through the ranking. And number 24, with the only 2 1 out of 5s, we have The Flying Suit, followed by Dude Planet. Skipping the 2 out of 5s because there were no episodes that were just purely mediocre. They were either bad like those 2 or 3s, which I believe were a majority of the episodes in the season. We have Las Venus, The Space Car, Astro's Top Secret, Private Property, Miss Solar System, Elroy's Pal, G.I. Jetson, A Visit from Grandpa, Good Little Scouts, TV or Not TV, Millionaire Astro, and A Date with Jet Screamer. And now the top 10, aka all the 4-rated episodes. So it's only really this top 10. These are the good episodes. These are the episodes actually genuinely can say are good and have to go back to. These are The Little Man, The Coming of Astro, Jetson's Night Out, Elroy's Mob, Rosie's Boyfriend. And then for the top 5, we have Uniblab, Rosie the Robot, Elroy's TV Show, Jane's Driving Lesson, and Test Pilot. That was Jetsons. Well, obviously still not good. I mean, 12 of the episodes are 3s compared to only 10 4s, and then those 2 bad episodes. I'm very confident when saying, at least in comparison of season ones, I like Jetsons more than Flintstones, which is crazy to me because Flintstones had a solid 6 season run. Well, Jetsons for many decades was canceled after this first season. Seasons, yeah, sure, it has 3 seasons technically, but seasons 2 and 3 were made in like the late 80s. So those 2 seasons are really more of a revival that are just kind of claimed to be seasons 2 and 3 of the show. Well, both shows have similar problems, like reusing the same storylines. I honestly think Jetsons was more creative. Maybe it's because it's in the future, and the idea of focusing a show on a future family is simply more interesting than a show about a caveman family. But yeah, I liked it. I can't say Jetsons season one was good. It was a very solid 6 out of 10 season that I didn't hate watching. Again, I do genuinely want to apologize to all my viewers who waited this long. Through a mix of me feeling burnt out from making these videos and also again a family stuff that's been going on, it caused me to prevent making this video for a few weeks now, and I really shouldn't. And although there is a small amount of you who actually watch these videos, that doesn't mean you guys shouldn't get your content. I deeply do apologize, and especially given that I'm going on vacation next week, it means I'll unfortunately be forced to take another break. I will try to get Aqua Teen Hunger Force Season 2 done this week as well, so you guys can at least get another quick video in. But with that, I am Z-Man, signing out.